Think you know the story of the Padmanabhaswamy Temple? Well, get ready because we are about to completely shift your perspective. We're looking at a location that has totally captured the world's imagination. But the real mystery isn't just about what's hiding in the dark. It's about how an ancient site perfectly balanced unimaginable wealth, geopolitical strategy, and profound mythology. To really understand the mystery here, you have to picture this staggering contrast. On one side, you have literally an ocean of gleaming gold. And then, on the exact opposite side, separated by just a few feet of solid stone, sits a terrifying, unopenable door promising world-ending floods if it's ever disturbed. It is basically a real-life Indiana Jones setup, right in the heart of Kerala.
Section 1. Vault A in Infinite Wealth.
When authorities finally opened Vault A back in 2011, they didn't just find a few old coins. They uncovered an unbelievable trove that fundamentally rewrites our understanding of historical wealth. The base value of the precious metals alone was astronomical, but when you factor in the historical and antique value of these millennial-old artifacts, you are looking at an estimated 600 Lakh Crores. That's roughly $1 trillion. We're talking about a sum that surpasses the GDP of several nations combined. It's a level of wealth that could practically dictate global economics.
To put that staggering sum into perspective, if you took just the wealth calculated from Vault A and distributed it evenly, every single citizen in India would receive about 4.2 lakh rupees. For a family of 5, that's 21 lakh rupees. Absolutely life-changing. And hey, that doesn't even account for the compound growth of gold over time or the other vaults that are still sealed shut.
So what does $1 trillion actually look like? Well, down in this highly secure, dark, oxygen-deprived subterranean bunker, where firemen literally had to pump in fresh air just to breathe, they uncovered an absolute ocean of gold. We're talking 18-foot solid gold chains, thrones completely encrusted with diamonds, and incredibly heavy sacks stuffed with ancient Roman, Napoleon, and Venetian coins. The sheer volume of it was so immense that modern high-tech counting machines actually broke down trying to process it all.
Section 2. The Legal Battle and the Supreme Court Verdict.
You've got to wonder, how did a secret this massive suddenly see the light of day after centuries of quiet? Believe it or not, it started with a mundane ego clash. Back in 2009, a former IPS officer named T.P. Sundarajan got an eviction notice from the Temple Trust. In a fit of anger, he filed a petition claiming the royal family was mismanaging the temple. That one simple eviction notice triggered a massive, decade-long legal wildfire. Vault A was forced open in 2011, and then, tragically, the petitioner suddenly died of a heart attack shortly after. This whole situation escalated all the way up to the Supreme Court of India, finally wrapping up in 2020 when the court recognized the royal family's deep traditional ties, granting them permanent administrative rights, known as Shabaid rights. But let's back up for a second to a really pivotal moment in that timeline. Following the sudden death of the petitioner, public fear was rising. So the Supreme Court appointed a highly respected senior advocate, Gopal Subramaniam, as amicus curiae. He spent 35 days literally living inside the temple, doing structural audits, and eventually handed in a deeply reverent, highly technical 577-page report. His documented conclusion was absolute. Vault B should not be touched. He warned that opening it would endanger the structural integrity of the main idol and invite grave spiritual consequences.
Section 3. How did this wealth survive?
It really begs the question, with so much wealth sitting in one place, why didn't historical invaders just snatch it? Well, against brute military force like Tipu Sultan in the 1700s, the temple's wealth actually saved the kingdom. The ruler, Dharma Raja, respectfully borrowed from Vault A to fund a massive defensive wall called the Nidum Kota. It successfully stopped the invasion dead in its tracks, and remarkably, he actually repaid the temple vault with interest. But the British Empire, they were notorious for legally seizing assets. While 1933 British guidebooks whispered rumors of deadly snakes guarding the vaults, the real defense against the British was a brilliantly executed legal trap set decades earlier.
Section 4. Marthanda Varma's legal masterstroke. Let's jump back to the 18th century to look at a visionary ruler who didn't just fight with swords but with unparalleled geopolitical strategy. King Marthanda Varma was an absolute genius. Early on, he literally had to hide in tree hollows to survive assassination attempts. but he bounced back to neutralize the Attara Yogam, a corrupt council of 8 priests acting like an internal mafia. He then conquered neighboring lands to build the massive Travancore Empire. His crowning military achievement, though, at the 1741 Battle of Colachel, he completely wiped out the Dutch East India Company's naval forces. He became the very first Asian power in history to defeat a European naval fleet.
But his greatest victory was in the courtroom of history. Recognizing the incoming British threat, in 1750 he executed the Thripity Donum. He literally laid his royal sword at the deity's feet and legally donated his entire kingdom to the temple. He declared himself and all future kings as Padmanabhadasa, mere servants of the Lord. By legally transferring ownership to the deity, he created an untouchable divine trust. The British, who were obsessed with legal precedent, knew they couldn't seize the wealth without triggering a massive, uncontrollable religious uprising. Just a brilliant move.
Section 5. The Mystery of Vault B.
All right, let's turn our attention back to the present, to the terrifying, unmapped labyrinth that is Vault B. This is where history completely crosses over into the supernatural and advanced ancient engineering. Unlike Vault A, getting into Vault B is seemingly impossible by design. You've got 3 barriers. First, a heavy iron door. Then, a sturdy wooden door. But behind that lies a final, lockless iron door seamlessly fitted into the earth. No hinges, no bolts, no keyholes, nothing. It is heavily guarded by carvings of twin intertwining serpents and a very frightening Yakshini figure. An official astrological ritual even warned that trying to force this door open with modern tools would unleash catastrophic floods.
Let's look a bit closer at that terrifying figure on the door. This is the Kanjirotu Yakshini. According to rich local lore, she was once a bloodthirsty spirit born of betrayal, but she was magically bound and neutralized by an ancient ruler and forced to serve the temple. She essentially acts as a fierce psychological and spiritual security system. By placing her image right there on the door, ancient architects utilized deeply ingrained, documented mythological fears to make sure absolutely no one would dare disturb the vault. And this intense physical and spiritual engineering extends far beyond the vaults. It goes right into the main idol itself. In 1686, a massive fire damaged the original wooden idol. So, in 1733, the king brought in 12,000 sacred saligramum stones all the way from the Gandaki River in Nepal to rebuild it. But they didn't just carve a rock. They used Kadu Sarkara Yogam, a highly complex 18th century alchemical engineering process using secret herbal resins to forge the new idol. Because of this extremely specific chemistry, standard liquid offerings are strictly prohibited. It just proves that every single inch of this temple is scientifically and spiritually deliberate. Section 6. Ancient Myths and Their Final Purpose. Because the history of this site goes way, way back before 18th century kings. If we look at the ancient texts, the roots of this temple stretch back thousands of years. The 10th chapter of the sacred Srimad Bhagavatam explicitly documents Lord Balarama visiting this exact site, taking a bath in the sacred pond, and donating 10,000 cows. This puts the temple's origins firmly in the Dwapara Yuga. Furthermore, local lore states that the very land of Kerala was created by Lord Parashurama, who threw his axe into the ocean to pull the landmass up from the depths. When you connect these ancient texts to Vault B, a stunning theory emerges. According to the lore, Vault B isn't a treasury at all. It functions as a geopolitical and spiritual control room, locking away 3 massive forces. First, a Sri Chakra placed by Parasarama for perpetual prosperity. Second, a Naga Bandhanam, a magical knot acting as a sealed portal to keep subterranean serpents at bay. And third, something highly scientific disguised as myth, Jalastambhanam. So what is Jalastambhanam? It is an ancient system of water locking. Remember, the myth says the land was pulled from the ocean. Well, this vault is believed to be the physical anchor, the hydraulic plug pushing the Arabian Sea back. It is believed that breaking Vault B's seal would literally allow the ocean to violently reclaim the land. Suddenly, the myth of world-ending floods doesn't sound so mythical, especially when you consider that modern structural engineers stood near that door and officially reported hearing the heavy sound of crashing ocean waves right behind it. It frames this myth as a very real, terrifying hydraulic warning.
So why here? Why is all this wealth and power concentrated in this one specific spot? According to Kundalini science, Thiruvananthapuram acts as the Manipura chakra, the naval center of the region. It's a magnetic point of gravity that naturally attracts and balances power, land, and immense wealth. Because this location acts as the absolute energetic center, kings didn't just dig holes to hide their gold here. They were naturally drawn to surrender their wartime spoils to this ultimate balancing point as an act of penance and preservation. Which leads us to our final and, honestly, most mind-blowing question. With Lord Parashurama said to be patiently waiting in the Mahendragiri forests to teach the final avatar of humanity, it leaves us wondering, is this 600 lakh crore vault simply an ancient, divinely protected bank account? Is this infinite, untouchable wealth patiently waiting to fund the Kalki avatar's grand reestablishment of Dharma at the end of our current age? It's a thought that absolutely changes how you look at history, wealth, and the mysteries buried right beneath our feet. Thank you so much for diving into this explainer with me.